This is Pitch Please, the show where people who play games pitch ideas to people who make them. This week...
For me, I think the biggest problem has been, who is God?
Good question.
That kind of podcast.
Christ.
Welcome to Pitch Please. My name's Alex, that's right. I'm joined by developer Chris from Foggybox.
That's right.
I'm also joined by developer James from Catastrophic Overload.
That's right.
Thomas, the Idea Engine.
That's right.
And regular contributor, Matt Castle.
Hello.
Hello. Matt, do you prefer...
No.
He's doing it.
That's right.
Do you
Oh,
prefer-
sorry. That's right.
Do you prefer Matthew or
Thank
Matt? I've not really asked. I feel like I should have asked.
Just doesn't really matter.
No. All right.
Mr. Castle.
Mr. Castle.
Yeah, sir.
Brilliant.
The Castle.
The Mr. Castle.
If you don't know us, if this is your first time listening, we're making games together. One of us is going to pitch an idea for a game, and then we're all going to come together, bring in our influences and interests from different games and whatever, and try and bring something together and make something that's fun to play, right? Right? And
Much akin to group lovemaking.
yeah,
Wow.
that's a good, yeah.
Keys and
I was about to
balls,
say,
guys.
because only good things
Thanks for
come
that.
from things that are designed by a committee. So
Yeah.
All right,
That's
I mean,
why
that's
we always end
exactly
up with a
what's
great
happening here. But okay, before we start,
Pretty good
this
things
week,
come from orgies.
I need to tell everyone about this. It's not an ad. I need to tell everyone about Tiny Teams. Okay, so if
Sounds like
you're
an ad.
listening to this, I guess it kind of is an ad. If you're listening to this and you're a solo or a small team developer, okay, we're doing something called Tiny Teams, which is basically if you want to show off your game to the world, we're going to hold this festival, which will let you do exactly that. And it's going to happen this summer. For more details, or if you want to submit the game, then you go to yogscast.games/tiny-teams. I'll put the link in the description for this podcast. And if you're not a developer and you just want to play the games, we'll probably also be talking about this like in a few episodes' time repeatedly to try and get you to go there, because there's going to be a bunch of different cool games with like loads of discounts. It'll be a Twitch and Steam thing.
Yeah.
It's going to be great. We did it last year as well. It was great. It's going to be
And it was great.
It's going to be great.
It was really
this year.
good.
it's very good.
It's going to be even better.
However, this week the pitch responsibility falls on. Well, I'd like it to fall on me, Tom. Can I pitch a game to you?
It's falling on you. I'm telling it to fall on you.
It's falling. It's
I'm
crushing
pushing
me.
the tree
I'm crushed.
towards you.
Like an
Oh,
anvil.
God, but my axe, I don't
I'm
know how to
terrible
cut
at
a tree
public
down. It's
speaking.
falling towards me.
Okay.
Fuck. No, it's falling towards you.
I've got it. I've caught it. This is my idea. Okay.
You can't catch a tree. It's killed you. You're dead.
I had an idea that popped out of nowhere while I was working in the middle of the day, and I just wrote this down without really thinking about it. I'm going to read it back now. Okay.
I'm ready.
Asymmetric multiplayer, survival/city builder. One player is a Norse god, the others are Vikings. Could work with any culture or mythology. The god must make
Greek,
demands.
Egyptian,
Yeah.
Christian.
Yeah.
Could it work with all you name it? It works with it.
Yeah, okay.
I'm your hype man. Carry on.
All right, thanks. All right, the god must make demands for offerings and tasks. So find wood,
Yeah, kill it.
kill X deer, whatever. The villagers, who are the other side
Fuck
of the
yeah.
white players, they have to scavenge and hunt for resources, which are then offered to a shrine. Offerings to the shrine
they do.
increase the god's resources, allowing them to build and expand the village. Homes, shrines, tools,
Killing
weapons,
it, King.
whatever. The god is responsible for the welfare of the villagers. They can make it rain to quench their thirst, spawn animals to hunt, or even shape the land to help create rivers or defensive positions. The god uses
bitch.
faith to accomplish this, which is a resource gained by villagers making donations to your shrine. Maybe there are different kinds of faith or resources? ? Villagers can create prayers to request
That's
things
the
from the
confidence
god.
I love.
For example, they can create prayers that like we need swords or foods or water or other resources that can keep them alive or help them hunt or whatever. And the god has to spend faith to fulfill those requests. And that's the only way for the Vikings or the players to communicate with the god. And fulfilling prayers is the only way for the god to answer back. So the only way
You've
that
lost
you
me.
know the only way that you know the god is listening to you is by them answering your prayers. Like that's my thought soup. But basically, the idea of this asymmetric multiplayer, where it's kind of you're playing a survival game, but you're fulfilling tasks which are created by another player who is a god who can then build your town and help you flourish as a little village or whatever.
Boom. What do you think of that?
I don't think I remember anything past the first sentence.
Okay.
All right,
Great. Here we go.
Well, no, I mean that in a way that there was so much information there.
There was a lot of
that
information.
I was just like, okay, so it's asynchronous.
Asymmetric, not asynchronous.
Asymmetric.
Yeah.
Okay, asymmetric multiplayer where one of you plays as a god, one of you's building a city.
Uh-huh.
So I'm imagining you heavily influenced kind of like Black and White meets Sim City.
I was thinking black and white a little bit, yeah. So almost as though you are the god and the other players are the villagers, I suppose.
Okay, so from all your ramblings, what I essentially want to do is try and break it down, and then if we
Yes.
say something, you go, okay, no, that I've already thought of. Because again, I think after the first part, I was trying to catch up on so many different mechanics whilst having seven different thoughts
fine.
about everything.
We can break it down.
Let's break it down.
We can break it
Can we start with the first word that you said in this entire pitch? I know that's a
Asymmetric.
early bit to stumble on. Asymmetric versus asynchronous. Define that for me. I know what it is, obviously.
Asynchronous is where you don't have to play at the same time, right? It would be like online chess.
Civilization.
You make a move and then someone else can make a move the next day, or battleships or whatever.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, hot seat civilization.
Words with friends.
Asymmetric is, correct me if I'm wrong, Devs, but asymmetric in my head is where you're having two different sides or two different mechanics.
Operation Tango.
James's Bond.
There are games like it's a VR game. It's where a person in the VR headset plays as a giant monster, and then you've got loads of little players that run around, and that player is, trying to smash them and throw buildings at them.
Right, okay.
Is this cooperative or competitive?
Well, I don't know. How would you want to see it? In my head, it was cooperative, but it doesn't have to be.
Well, that's because what you've described sounds cooperative in terms of like one side gives the blessings to the god who then uses it to benefit the other side, which would obviously be like balked if it was competitive, because you basically just starve the god of faith until he died. People hold a lot of power over God. Though I do like the idea of that. Like there could be a twist on that where a god is trying to trick people into supporting him in some way.
Right. So almost like a deception.
Maybe just off the top of my head, if you had multiple gods competing for the affection of a human player,
Okay.
you've maybe then got some competition between the gods and like who gives you the best bang for your buck in terms of belief, who you give your faith to, and you're kind of trying to if the village is helping another god, then you could go into like, I'm going to fuck with this village because they don't believe in me, basically.
I'm going to use my lightning spell. I'm going to use all my faith on this lightning spell.
I don't know why Age of Empires is coming to mind, because it kind of feels like if you were going to do a competitive, the idea that you could have an RTS, but it's you choose the god to align to, but then it's also this asynchronous multiplayer where the players are your town, your team, and then you've got to sort of combat each other is kind of an interesting thought.
There's a board game that I cannot remember the name of, which is perfect, where you play as like a secret society, a group of different people in these different secret societies, and there's a war going on in the map, and you don't necessarily play out the wars like Risk or anything like that. You kind of put money and influence into the different factions in the war, and hope and pray that your team are the one that win, and you can kind of put money into them and say, okay, now they've got more money, they do these actions on this turn, and kind of influencing the way that the war goes and hoping that the team that you've picked wins the war overall.
Okay.
Cannot remember the name of the game.
It's like apocalyptic horse racing.
Yes. Now maybe that's something the god can do, is maybe there are 4 different factions on this map all playing their own little Rust, basically. And if this faction is the one giving you loads and loads of resources, then you can pay them back, and that makes them stronger to fight all the other factions. And you're kind of like, the blue team, they haven't given me anything in ages, so fuck those guys. I'm not going to give them anything.
Smite them.
Yeah, there's something interesting about server versus server, isn't there? This whole like the problem I'm having is you've said that a player is God. Mm-hmm. Now that I'm struggling with that, because if you've got like 100,000 players and you've got one player,
I'm thinking of kind of like something like the Forest, or maybe not even that, maybe like Valheim. Is that like 5 people or something, or 8 people?
I think you have loads of people in there.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. But yeah, so maybe like under 10, I was thinking in my head, where you have like a small group of people, and you could have NPC villages as well, perhaps. But it's a relatively, it's not massively multiplayer. It's a relatively small group of players who are playing a survival game together, but who are also dependent on this god. I mean,
even that's kind of interesting, though. If you had servers of 24 players versus each other, so you could still have the whole, you're the god in charge, and you're just trying to get players to come to your server and join your server, and then you become a stronger god because you're able to accumulate players. But I don't know how you then... You'd have to have some sort of scenario where the servers compete against each other or battle, or, it's like, I've reached enough power, I'm going to try and take on this server.
I feel like you could literally make this game in Rust and just have the server admin be unkillable and able to spawn stuff in. And he's built this fortress in the middle of the map that if people can get in there and offer him stuff, he'll spawn stuff for you. Like,
I suppose
you could just do it in Rust,
like
right?
In my head, the kind of unique mechanic for the god, at least, is faith. Like, as a resource, you have like a bunch of these actions that you can perform, whether it's like build or smite. Like if you have like a fireball or a lightning or whatever, you can do creative or destructive things. But each action uses some of your faith pool, and that will affect what you can do.
I feel like I really like the idea of having to spend faith. So you have to it's like, oh, you're currently generating 10 faith per tick, or however you want to generate it. I feel like there should be, the number of shrines and altars that they build, which costs them resources of stone and wood, means that you can spec into other like skills. So there's like a skill tree for the god, where you're like, okay, they've built 5 shrines, so every time they build a shrine, I get a new, spec point, and I can diverge down into one where I can grow a forest quickly, so that gives them access to wood closer, or one that's purely offense, so I can spawn
like
a patch
Artemis
of locusts
aspect,
Athena the farmland
aspect
of
I like that.
The enemy. I feel like that could be a really good way of doing it, where you can have different play styles. And obviously, if you generalize, you never really get to the end game of one, because you're trying to mix and match with all of them. But I feel like,
which is the end game. He puts his like holy emissary down on Earth, and you have to deal with it.
yeah. Just smiting. Just a big hole opens up.
You get to place one son of God.
I mean,
it's a traitor deception game. Which one is Jesus?
It's the guy.
Someone was Jesus all along.
The rest are imposters.
Hidden in plain sight, but they're Jesus.
Yeah.
I was just thinking, I just had the thought, can a regular player get upgraded to be God? Can they, the secret idea, can they accumulate, can they try and steal faith? Can they kind of accumulate their own power and then knock the god off of the top tier and then take over? I don't know. There's something kind of interesting about that, but that's kind of
one
just
of the players becomes a god killer and makes it a competitive game.
And then God of War 4 starts.
Or just like you can start like a secret cult who is sort of like creating a new god, and it's down to the god player to sort of say, wait a second, this town should be creating more belief than I'm getting. This belief's got to be going somewhere. Right. What are they creating a secret god? And that's when you're like, I'm just going to make them eat lava for a bit.
What if it starts off and there is no god, and then one player is doing really well and people go, you're good, and they go, yeah, I'm God, and they can somehow...
said good. We said good, not God. No, I heard you. I'm God.
Good, God. So
I really don't think you should build a faith on a terrible bit of wordplay.
I'm good. That's the name of the game. It's like I'm good. And that's how it starts. So it's just you're all just in amongst it together, and you try and
so there's no God to begin with.
Who's God? Yeah.
I like the idea of there not being that, of not really having any kind of interaction with the gods, other than occasionally they will answer your prayer, or they might not answer your prayers. It might just be a coincidence. You don't know. But like, I really liked what Matt was saying about the multiplayer element of other villages, perhaps. But I wonder, like, what if it was just kind of like because in Black and White, am I misremembering where you have to fight other gods, right? Isn't there like they have different? There are like the gods have various
different
faiths.
tribes of different gods. Yeah,
I think the biggest problem with this game is if it is a survival game, which tends to last quite a long time, potentially infinite. If one person is God and you're not the God player, then you're just like, what am I doing? I'm just playing a garbage survival game, right? I think the games need to be quick. So in my head, I'm imagining, for some reason, some form of, I want to say MOBA. What I mean is a one-lane thing where you've got your village at the beginning, the heretics are on the other side, and you just move zone to zone to zone to zone to zone down this one lane. You've opened this next area, it's this forest clearing. There's a load of resources there. There's maybe some animals. Can you take them all down? Please, God, can you help us take them all down? Artemis arrows fire down. Like, great, we've got a load of food now. Perfect. But you've used up a load of faith helping them out. And then you move to the next zone. There's a new threat. And the games could be relatively quick. And the longer you take in certain zones, the more the heretic tribe at the very other side come in and start fucking with you. And maybe that's a relatively quick way of doing it. And then 15 to 3 hours later, the game ends and then you start again. Maybe it's asynchronous on both ends. Maybe the other side is also a tribe of players controlled by their god. And it is a competitive, asymmetric, why am I struggling with that word? Multiplayer game. 12 players,
you're still seeing
5 in a
there
tribe,
being
2 gods.
Player. You're still seeing a player being God in that scenario.
Yeah. And if the games are relatively quick, then it's okay to have a game where you're just the player in that situation.
Yeah.
It's almost like playing a game of shit Dota, and one player is the coach watching over it, saying, "Okay, now go do this thing, go do that thing, or whatever else." But they have very limited influence because it costs faith to do their thing.
I was just going to say, because I always find with games, with asymmetric games, particularly competitive ones, there's often a tension in some people really want to be the weird one out. Some people don't ever want to be. I was just thinking of all those horror games where there's like a big monster versus people. I never want to be the monster because I'm not very good at it, and it's like embarrassing. Like this idea of all these teenagers facing off like a really goofy Michael Myers who doesn't know what he's doing. I don't want the stress of that.
I sort of see the same with Among Us. People don't want to be the imposter. They're like, too much pressure.
I just want a simple life.
So this does remind me of when Battlefield 4 came out, they had a commander mode, which was a standalone. You could play it in the browser or you could play it on iPad. And essentially it was obviously Battlefield, so it's 64 players. But each team had a commander and players could ping certain parts of the map and request things. And the commander could spend like points. That every time a player's got kills, it would add up to this point total.
Oh my God, that is this idea.
Hellfire missiles. You could then call in like supply drops, drop in, ATVs. But it also reminds me of a little bit like SimCity, where as the mayor, when you click on like you get a little pop up and it's like, hey, we need more fire like departments in this area. There have been fires recently. Can you build us? And then you have to make that decision. Well, because you've got money and you know how much money you've got, it's obviously not an infinite resource, and you can see how much ticks away each month.
Well, there you go. You've made Battlefield Commander mode, but fantasy. Nice one, Alex.
I'm sorry.
I didn't say that. I really liked Commander mode, by the way.
Okay,
So,
I'd never heard of it. But I guess that means it wasn't very good. It wasn't very successful, perhaps.
For me, I think the biggest problem has been who is God, right? It is always going to be
that kind of podcast.
Christ.
It's always going to be this disconnect between like I'm one player with all this power and then everybody else is doing my bidding. What if it was you're God for a day? So you each take it. It's like no one wants to be God.
Right.
No one wants to be in charge. No one wants to pressure.
Heavy lies the crown.
But then it's like, oh well, it's your turn to be God this week. And then you get like beamed up into heaven or wherever, and then you've got all this power. But what's interesting, I think, is that
That's James. He's getting beamed up. He's God now.
Oh, he's
you're
God
passing
now.
the mantle onto someone else. So you could be in charge and then fuck everything up, and then it's like, then it's someone else's turn to be God. And it's like, well, they're obviously not going to be nice to you because you just fucked everything up. You've just burnt my crops, or you knocked down that barn that we built. So I'm going to smite this person specifically. So it's like kind of becomes a kind of balance of, well, I need to be a nice God because I don't want to get punished when I'm not God. But I also want good shit for me. And, I don't know. I think there's something kind of interesting. I like the idea that one person is God.
I like the idea of that, of switching around, of like sharing that responsibility.
God for a day. Yeah.
I'm also liking the idea of switching, because it's always that thing when you're in a game and someone has an important role and they fuck it up and you're like, I could have done that better. And it's like, well, now you kind of have to. It's your turn. And
I
also,
appreciate you censoring muck there and replacing it with fuck.
thanks.
It's not that kind of podcast, guys.
I said that, and then in my head, you went, you can swear. And I was like, oh. And I really like that idea because that happens to everyone. We're like, oh, why do they do that? And then when it's your turn, you can try and rectify that problem. But it might mean you're then ignoring other problems that other people have because you're trying to solve that one thing specifically that when you go back down will help you out. So
but what is the game?
Make decisions.
Like outside of God, what is the game?
No clue.
Oh, I don't know.
I like the MOBA strip.
The MOBA strip. That's what they call it.
Does it loop
Just
in on
single
itself?
lane.
The one lane.
I do really like the idea of it being a survival. I mean, maybe this won't work because there are just already so many survival games. Everyone's played them before.
I think survival elements it can work. That's why I'm saying about this single lane sort of thing. It's just a progression from one side of the map to the next side of the map, kind of like Dread Hunger.
Are you seeing MOBA like
survival
first person
game,
or like actually MOBA, like as in top down?
I'm imagining the God perspective to be like that.
Okay,
but everyone in the map. It's a single lane is as far as the MOBA thing goes, where you're at the start of the map, you're trying to get to the end of the map.
Right,
and Dread Hunger, the sort of traitor deception survival game, starts one end of this river in the boat, and you have to get to the very end, blow up the iceberg, and leave before the traitors kill you. Kind of works in the same way. You're just trying to get to the other side of the map, and you can head off into the icy winter wonderland or hellland and pick up resources as you go. But ultimately, that's the goal. And I feel like that is a way that it could be done in a relatively quick turnaround, like fashion, right?
Yeah.
Like games can just start and end 15, 20 minutes, and then next game begins, and you do basically the same thing.
Flash survival game.
And that's a good way to satisfy the, I'm God for this game, I'm not God for the next game. But if we do the God for a day thing, then obviously we can change it entirely. It's just what is the game underneath God?
Yeah, I don't know, Matt. This is your first time here being in the position to criticize someone else's pitch. What are your thoughts on this so far?
Well, I'm just, because I'm an egomaniac trying to work out how to fold this into the castle verse. Of course. That's all I really care about at the end of the day.
Well, it ends in a court case.
It ends in a court case against God.
You have to judge God.
Now I'm interested. I think I actually think that of the initial idea, I like the confusion in communication between the people and the God. I think there is something there that maybe gets lost if you've just got like a cycling God, or if the
God of cycling.
A cycling,
you cycle through.
changing gods every day or whatever.
Lance Armstrong.
Like, what if, to take it a slightly different direction, it is a survivor game. So you've got the people, they're trying to survive, but you have two gods. They're also trying to survive, and a god survives by getting people to believe in them. But maybe you've got like a good god and a bad god.
Good God.
And it's about tricking the people. Well, tricking the people if you're the bad god into believing you to kill the good god. And if you're the good god, it's about trying to not get them to go for basically the devil. It's the God versus the devil, all right?
Okay.
But, you know,
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Oh,
and
Lucifer.
so they're playing there. That gives the God a bit more to do, because that's the problem I think with the God role, is he just sits there getting belief and then dealing out stuff and being like, great. But if he's playing like a weird mind game with another God,
Right. Okay.
so there's like that's his survival game. Is like
Right.
with that person, but then there's the overall survivor game of the people on the earth as well, trying to, like, if they give all their belief to the devil, he fundamentally like fucks you and he wins.
But to the villagers, the players not know which one is. They don't know which one is.
No, they don't know. They're both presented as just.
Are they given
as-
offers? And like,
Yeah.
if they just.
I mean, maybe if they're giving offerings to particular gods, they have an idea of, okay, we gave this many offerings to this god and he did this action that could only have been that god. Why did he blow up Tony? Tony's fucking dead.
But
Seems
Maybe-
sus.
but
We
maybe-
just gave God
but maybe
sus.
maybe the gods, like the actions they're given are maybe like randomly assigned, and there's some things where it's like it comes with this cost, so it may be seen as negative, even though you're trying to communicate, listen, what I was actually trying to do with this was give you that wood, but unfortunately to give you that wood I also had to fill it full of serpents. And so
Classic. Old serpent wood.
I love that
so you're going to
story.
think that, like, you might look at that and go, was that just like a good god being a bit dumb, or was that like a vindictive god?
Right. You're trying to figure out if it was a good or bad action.
Could this be kind of like,
Yeah.
I'm trying to think of an example, because I've definitely played games like this, but you know when you basically have
Have you?
a secret object, no sorry, like a game, I think I'm thinking of specifically a board game, but basically one of those games
Are
where
you thinking
you have
Secret Hitler?
Well, no, it's a game where you have a secret objective, basically. Like there are
Yeah.
tons of
Right,
deception
yeah.
games, like social deception games like this,
Yeah.
where everyone has a secret objective. Among Us, I guess. And
Yeah,
but
Battlestar board game.
in the case of this, perhaps like the gods could have secret objectives, and perhaps as Satan or the devil or whatever the bad god, your secret objectives would be really bad ones. But in order to perform those secret objectives, you have to use your faith resource to do them, like fill a log with serpents and give it to someone like it. But and is that your like end goal? You have each god has a bunch of these objectives they have to fill, and that's what kind of keeps them going.
Yeah.
So the game is, for the gods, the game is to complete their objectives, right? How do, I guess, the players in the middle, the players on Earth, what are they actually doing to try and win? Like, what do they get for playing this game?
The only thing
I
that
guess.
comes to mind is a game like Secret Hitler, where you might be.
How does that work, sorry?
A secret. So someone's secretly Hitler, and then there's a bunch of fascists,
How could
and then
you
a
tell?
bunch of, I think they're called liberals. I'm not sure, but
Okay.
you don't know who is who. And then you nominate a chancellor, you nominate who's president, and then the basic premise being that you get some decrees that you have to place, and you can choose to give someone 2 good decrees, a good and a bad decree, 2 bad decrees, and then it's like, oh, so and so gave me 2 bad decrees that I've put. Now I had to put one down. Sorry. Oh, it turns out I'm Hitler, and now I and all the fascists win.
out I'm Hitler.
You know, that's a terrible description of what that game is, but
No, it
it's
happens.
I played
It
this
happens.
once and my wife thought I was Hitler and she killed me, but I'm pretty sure it's just because she was cross that I hadn't done like washing up or something. There was a lot of baggage we brought to that game.
Oh my God, okay.
It's quite a strong game to play when someone shouts, "You're a fascist" at you. It's quite like, oh my God. Oh.
The windows are open. Don't shout it that loudly.
Exactly. But in the same
okay.
way that people in this scenario, if you got the 2 gods, you could also have people that are maybe secret devil worshippers, and you've got to maybe like, they might
Right,
have
so
a
it's
reason.
straight deception on the ground as
So
well.
it's deception on the ground. There's potentially deception in the sky or wherever they are.
Why are you carving this pentagram into the floor?
Yeah, what's that all about? It's like, I just fancy. Yeah.
It would be good if to get rid of people, like if you're like as the good god or as Satan, you're looking down on all this and you're like, well, I know that person is like a devil worshipper or my opposite. The only way for a god to kill them is to ask for something which looks quite evil. So like the good god could be like, I need you to human sacrifice this guy for me. It looks like the work of the devil, but you're like, honestly, guys, this will weaken the devil if you can kill this guy for me.
Right.
Yeah, I was thinking that periodic sacrifices could be a way to whittle down the numbers. Where you're like,
this
okay,
is
you have to
almost a kind of a
sacrifice
werewolf.
It's like The Bachelor,
Among Us style,
but
social
God edition.
deception
But
now
again-
for the players.
Again, in that case, the game has to be short if we're eliminating players. But I think maybe if there is a God and Devil side to the God team, maybe in any game there is no right or wrong answer. Like maybe the devil is the correct choice. He's got the good objectives. The people on the ground, like
spoken like the true devil himself.
but maybe like
The most cliche
Like in some
devil
games,
sentence of all time. Hey
Satanist.
guys,
Look-
I don't think the devil's all that bad.
it's not all that bad. Look,
Just misunderstood.
God killed more people in the Bible than the devil did. I'm just saying. But I think what I mean is there's no for the people on the ground, they have to work out which of the two gods is the right one, is the good one. And maybe in one game, carving pentagrams into the game gives that particular satanic god more faith, but he's actually the good guy in this game. So when you're seeing a player do that, you're like, why are you joining that team? He's done some bad stuff. He gave me some wood with serpents in it earlier. Remember the serpents? And then you're like, yeah, but wood though. He gave me wood. But the serpents were inside it. But wood though. And they're trying to figure out which team is the correct one. Maybe that's how they win. They've picked the right faith.
What is the right faith though? What does
whichever one is finishes their objectives first, or whichever one has the correct one that leads all the survivors to, being alive at the end or whatever.
I'm feeling like we're going to have
If you got to the end
to.
of the game and it's really clear if you voted for like God or the devil. Like if it's the God, it rains something you love, and if it's the devil, it rains snakes.
Snakes and blood.
So it's always the same cloud, and all the players get to look up at the cloud and go, oh shit, snakes.
Snakes again.
Fuck. I love that. Okay, I mean, I think I really like the idea of the ground players also having a deception element to the game as well, because that makes it like a survival game with deception. Sounds quite an interesting concept to me.
I think what I meant is not that they are necessarily cut as that you start the game and it's like you are a traitor, you are a worshipper, whatever. It's just people as they're playing, they see the actions of these two different teams of gods, and they decide this is the one I'm going to go for, and maybe that will lead to sort of some infighting in the Earth players, and they're like, you can't join that one, you can't join this one, or whatever. And then at the end of the game, you pick the right one, you pick the wrong one, or whatever. I think that could be a fun way of doing it, just trying to figure out which of the two gods. The gods, however, they know which one's the right or wrong ones, but they can't communicate it, obviously.
I like the idea of like the people getting together and they're all on like voice chat and they're discussing in the village square like which god they think's good and bad. The other gods can't talk to them, but they can hear all those conversations.
And can
So
talk to each
between
other.
them, they're having their own conversation of like, yes, they think it's me, you suck.
Exactly. I think that could be really fun.
I do really like the
That's
idea
cool.
of gods being able to spend that currency, that resource of faith, and having different abilities. So, for example, what if, say, if one of your objectives is you need to sacrifice a villager. A villager must be sacrificed. Then perhaps as a god, you can spend some of your faith to have a 5-second voice
conversation with one of the players.
With one of the players at nighttime, like while everyone
Hell
else is asleep. So you have 5 seconds to, to
You
bring
pick
that.
a messenger of the god for like one turn,
So then,
and they have
But
to
people
communicate.
can lie about that.
Well, no, exactly. That's what.
God just told me that we shouldn't, and we should kill Keith.
Hell yeah.
Keith is.
It would be really good if the voice came out of one of the other human players, like they get possessed. So you're like your child turns to you in the night, and then your voice comes out of their mouth.
It's God and it's the devil. They're just like, this is definitely. Oh, I love that. I love that so much. That's cool. Let's make this.
Chris, we're about at that point where we need some kind of pun name for this game.
I thought we already had one. What was the one from? What was it? Oh,
You've already forgotten it,
no,
though.
not deviance. Deviance in the sky or something. What was it?
Deviance in the sky.
Deception in the sky.
Deception in the sky. I really like that. For some reason.
Okay. I thought you were just going to
sounds
say,
like
like, I don't know, Gods
Awful
Among Us or
B-side
something.
to Norman Greenbaum. Gods Among Us. We can really cash in on that SEO.
Exactly. Among Us, but with gods. Dread Hunger TTT.
Nice. Okay, that's great.
Rust.
Rust.
So I'm quite surprised that we've managed to talk about this for as long as we have. But I kind of feel like we could talk about. I want to talk about it more, but but we should have some kind of wrap up. Tom, can you tell us what this is at the moment?
So it's a asymmetric multiplayer. I know what that means. Game where two players
I thought you were just
for
going
the
to
game
read
are.
my thing that
No. Because I mean, it's different-ish. Where two players are, I guess, randomly, or maybe you pick at the start, assigned to be God. They are competing against each other for their separate little objectives. Maybe one is good, maybe one is bad. And they are watching over a tribe of players on the Earth who are just playing a boring little survival game. It's a fun little survival game where they are dedicating their faith and resources and whatever else to either of the gods, and they can communicate with each other just fine. The gods can communicate with each other just fine, but they can also hear and see everything that's going on Earth. And they are trying to deceive and manipulate the players on the ground to win the game. And the players on the ground are trying to survive long enough to assign their faith to the correct leader and hopefully pick the right one to win. And also you can speak out of the mouth of a child with your voice.
How the players win yet?
It puts like some scary filter on it.
Yeah. Mother.
Hello, Father. It is me.
God.
Definitely not the devil. Don't worry about it.
I am not the devil. Trust me.
Take all the horses to the Serpent Woods.
The Serpent Woods. What?
Do it at night so no one sees. I am a good man.
Trust me.
Matt, what are you thinking about this so far? Are you intrigued? Do you want to play something like this?
I'm into it.
Just don't bring too much baggage to the game.
If it still has like that sort of survival mechanical element, like there is. It's not just a deception game. I do like it if there is a bit of something going on with the humans and it's just like a weird narrative layer over the top of it. It's kind of fun.
I was chopping wood. I was chopping down trees in the forest, in the serpent forest, and one of the trees spoke to me and they said, "Kill James, sacrifice James." That's why I've killed him.
Kill James.
He isn't a true believer. That's
He's
fantastic.
But stuff like that.
But he's in heaven now, so he can hear all the communication between God and the players. That's the fun they get out of the game. They get to watch it all happen. Awesome. There you go. Gods Among Us, TTT, Dread Hunger, VTuber.
Tom, are you into this?
Yeah, I like it. I think it's really cool. I always am into new, fresh, hot imposter, traitor, deception games. And honestly, this is one I haven't really seen before. Obviously, there's going to be some comment or some E3 reveal very soon that is exactly this game.
Yeah.
It's happened before. It will happen again.
It happened very recently, which we haven't talked about yet, actually. The Operation
happened very
Tango.
recently with Operation Tango, which was a game that was announced way before our pitch. So, I mean, our bad.
But as far as I'm aware, none of us knew what it was, right? James's Bond is that game, but...
yeah.
Okay.
Well, we'll see. We'll play it, but yeah,
James,
it happens a lot.
What do you think? Are you enjoy? I know this is a bit different to kind of your, like some of your initial ideas,
and that's okay. I'm happy we went down this route. I'm loving the idea. It feels like a really nice combination of everybody's idea as well. Like what Matt was saying about the communication issues, like that becomes a major mechanic. And what Tom was saying, even like if you did it like the MOBA style, you could do. Like it's just over 7 days. You just got to, because there needs to be an end, right?
Yeah.
So you just have 7 rounds, 7 days, and then at the end it's like who's who, and you're on this little island doing your little survival tasks. I love it. I'm really into it.
Chris?
Yeah, I really like to do. I mean, as usual, we always neglect the way the players interact and what their UI and what their whole thing looks like. So I've just
I mean, how does this?
In my head.
How are you imagining that in your head? What is it? Is it?
Well, I assume with essentially first person, it looks like Rust.
Okay,
right, and then look, some trees are growing. God has done something for me. Thank you, God. And you're like,
thanks, God.
You're welcome.
But or maybe Satan. They're filled with serpents.
Satan. Obviously, they're filled with snakes.
It's the only thing the Satan can do. It's all serpent based.
The top one I feel like is more traditional sort of RTS black and white kind of.
It's just a spectator view.
It's just a spectator cam where you can you click on an ability and then you plop it down, or you click on a character and you like possess, and you might be able to like move him over somewhere. You might be able to move out the way of a falling boulder. And you're like, thanks. god or devil for saving me for some purpose. It might be evil.
Well, okay.
That's the game.
I just love the idea of them constantly questioning it. Like the good guy giving an order. It's like stopping. There's a falling boulder, and you give a little glint to go this direction, and they just look up and they're like, "Okay, why do you do that?" It's like, to save your fucking life. What the hell? I'm the good guy. How do you still not trust me?
Oh my god, I love that. If a player dies, they have to go to the afterlife where the gods are like, "I tried to save you, you bloody idiot."
Exactly.
That's great.
What did I tell you?
Okay, so I feel like there are so many more different ideas and mechanics that we could chat about and shove into this. And maybe somehow crowbar into this. And maybe if you're listening at home, you can crowbar some things in. How can they tell us to crowbar things in, Tom?
They can tell us at Pitch Please Vowels Pod with the vowels on Twitter, or let us know in the comments on YouTube, or leave a review on iTunes with a 5-star. We only listen to the reviews if they've got 5 stars.
I'm afraid.
Anything less than that, and you're trash.
If you want to join,
that's the way.
Yeah, join the community. Follow us on Twitter. We make a lot of really interesting, great posts like. How many standard portions of UK chip shop chips could you fit into a condom? That went really well, actually.
Please let us know.
Had a lot more votes
Apparently,
than I thought.
it's above 15.
Yeah, so all of us are wrong.
Real highbrow stuff.
Highbrow stuff.
Thank you, everyone, for listening. Matt, thanks for joining us again. I'm really enjoying your occasional visits.
Your insights. And also, before Alex forgets, like he did last time, where can they find you, Matt?
I'm Mr. Basil _Pesto.
And
Twitter.
you also have a podcast, which I am a big fan of. I've been listening to it.
It's called The Back Page, a video games podcast.
What is it? Can you give us the pitch for that?
Pitch, please.
It's video game chat through the lens of two people who worked on video games magazines, largely focused on the years 2006, probably to 2014. Which is when we were working on mags.
Very specific.
And so if you liked games in that 8-year period, so basically the 360 generation, you will probably enjoy this podcast too.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
Take a listen.
Yeah.
And
take a listen.
Take a listen. Just take it. Matt, it's probably not going to be with us next time, but we're going to have someone else next time. It's a surprise right now. Who knows who it's going to be? Oh,
we don't know.
We'll see you later. Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye now.
Bye-bye.
Goodbye.
Bye. Take a listen.
Take a listen.
Just take a
I
listen.
don't know why I said that.
Idiot.
Sorry.
You ruined the podcast.